Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. And in AI news, I want to talk about autonomous weapons because should they be allowed to decide who or what to kill? This actually we have to talk about because we are slouching towards the Terminator era here. And Margot McCall of TechCrunch had a really interesting write-up on this that, quite frankly, I think we should all be paying attention to, because when it comes to autonomous weapons, in the past, Silicon Valley has essentially erred on the side of caution. And to be fair, the stance of the US government itself is a bit ambiguous also. The US military currently does not pursue or purchase fully autonomous weapons, though some argue weapons like mines and missiles can operate autonomously. This is a qualitative different form of autonomy than, say, a turret that identifies, then acquires, and then fires on a target without human intervention. In other words, we are basically programming a mine, or we're pointing the missile where we want to go, as opposing to let the AI identify who's an enemy and who's a friend. There we are. Now, the US does not ban companies from making fully autonomous lethal weapons, nor does it explicitly ban them from selling such things to foreign countries as well. Last year, the US released an updated guidelines for artificial intelligence safety in the military that have been endorsed by many US allies and require essentially top military officials to approve of any new autonomous weapons, yet these guidelines are voluntary. So, U.S. officials, for the record, have continuously said it's, quote, not the right time, end quote, to consider any binding ban on autonomous weapons. In other words, while they are not actively purchasing autonomous weapons, they are kind of pursuing them, and we're going to leave the door open to see what happens here. And now, the once reticent Silicon Valley seems a lot more open to creating the artificial intelligence that would power what I'm essentially calling Terminators 1.0. Now, last month, Palantir co-founder and Anduril investor John Lonsdale also showed a willingness to consider fully autonomous weapons. At an event hosted by a think tank known as the Hudson Institute, Lonsdale expressed frustration that basically this question is being framed as a yes or no question. So he instead presented a hypothetical where China has embraced AI weapons, but the US has to, quote, press the button every time it fires. Now, he encouraged policymakers to embrace a more flexible approach to basically how much AI should be integrated into weaponry. And when TechCrunch, who again I'm cribbing from, asked Lonsdale for further comment, he emphasized that defensive technology companies shouldn't be the ones setting the agenda on lethal AI. He also reiterated, for the record, a willingness to consider more autonomy in weapons, maybe as a balance. Now, Anduril co-founder Palmer Luckey also expressed openness to autonomous weapons, or at least heavy skepticism of the arguments against them. Now, Luckey said during a talk earlier this month at Pepperdine University in California that US's adversaries, and I quote, use phrases that sound really good in a soundbite. Well, you can't agree that a robot should never be able to decide who lives and dies. And my point to them is, where's the moral high ground in a landmine that can't tell the difference between a school bus full of kids and a Russian tank? Now, activists and human rights groups have long tried and obviously failed to establish international bans on autonomous lethal weapons, and those are bans that the United States itself has resisted essentially signing, as other countries as well have not. But the war in Ukraine may have actually turned the tide against the activists, providing both a trove of combat data and a battlefield for defense tech founders to test on. In other words, we are seeing the integration of these drones that the Ukrainians essentially are using in mass against the onslaught of the Russian military. And now we are starting to see the integration of AI on an actual battlefield to see how it goes. Now, currently, companies integrate AI into weapon systems, although they still require a human to make the final decision to kill. So for many in Silicon Valley and DC, the biggest fear is that China or Russia rolls out fully autonomous weapons first, thus essentially forcing the hand of the United States. And at a UN debate on AI arms last year, a Russian diplomat was pretty coy, and I quote, "We understand that for many delegations, the priority is human control. For the Russian Federation, the priorities are somewhat different." Take that for what it's worth. Now, at the Hudson Institute event, going back to that, Lonsdale also said that the tech sector needs to take it upon itself to, quote, teach the Navy, teach the DoD, teach Congress, end quote, about the potential of AI to, quote, hopefully get us ahead of China. end quote. And I think that is the big thing where we can all come together and say, hey, we don't want to do this one thing and we'll have an international treaty on it. But everybody's not on the same page. And Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and some others have shown basically, one, that they are collaborating as authoritarians are now collaborating. I just learned that essentially India, who's Narendra Modi, who's kind of a quasi-autocrat, is now the second largest supplier to Russia of various technologies that Russia's supposed to be banned from. So obviously, the whole world is not on the same page of this. And so, like the anti-hacking treaty that we have in the UN, where the United States signed it along with 27 other countries around the world, multiple European countries, South American countries, et cetera, noticeably absent from that treaty is Russia and China and their friends. And so, by virtue of that, they're going to go full steam ahead on this, which means in a tit-for-tat scenario and game theory, the U.S. has to as well. Now, the question is, how exactly does this happen, and what does this exactly look like for the future? Nobody has a crystal ball. I'm not saying everything's going to go Skynet, but as we centrally link and control AI so we understand as it's even making its own decisions on who or who not to kill, this has the potential for hacking. This has the potential for intrusion. And God forbid, let's say threat actors from another country that are actively, engaged in their own autonomous AI weaponry are able to hack into ours and turn our autonomous weapons against ourselves or us doing it to them. These are the real things that we have to consider as we move into this era, which quite frankly is unknown. But the one thing that we can definitely say for sure is that as humans have advanced, technology has advanced, and as technology has advanced, so is our ability to kill more efficiently and, well, a lot more quick. So this is a huge, huge issue. We're going to see where this goes. I don't predict good things. I think we're going to have autonomous weapons in the next few years. And it's not just going to be the United States and its allies. So good luck to us all. I guess I'll see you in the bunkers in 5 years when we're shooting at these things. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.